Long live the undying spirit of Presley, long live. In honor of the late Presley Chweneyagae, ngithanda ukubingelela the Kerk family, ngibingelela baka Chweneyagae, ngibingelela umama wethu Mekyagile, ngibingelela uKhoshi Mtshegare ale teng le rena today, ke dumedise ntate moruti wa rena le bomme ba kereke ba Saparo, ngibingelele the MEC of Finance here in Gauteng, Tate Lebogang Maile, the acting premier of Northwest, who is also the MEC of Treasury, Mekinetswe Mosenoge, Ganye, no deputy minister wethu okhona, Peace Mabe. Kakhulu nakhona ngibingelele our extension to the MMC of Waste and Environment and Agriculture, Fighter Obakeng Ramabodu in the city of Tshwane. Comrades, fellow South Africans, distinguished guests, and to the beloved family, along with the Commander-in-Chief in his absentia, President Julius Selomalem. We are gathered here today to pay tribute to a son of the soil, an activist in the creative industry and a cultural giant whose work gave shape, dignity, and visibility to the lived experiences of Black South Africans. We do not gather merely to mourn his passing, but to lift up and affirm the power of his life, the integrity of his craft, and the courage with which he carried the burdens of our people through film, theater, and TV. Presley, born in 1984 in Mafeking, was not born into wealth, nor did he enjoy the privileges that many white actors inherit through generation of advantage. He emerged from the dusty townships of the Northwest, where dreams often fade because they are spoken aloud. Yet he held onto his passion and transformed it into purpose. His breakthrough came through the film of Tsotsi, which won an Oscar, a story that spoke directly to the brutality and the beauty of township life. His portrayal earned him numerous awards as an actor. In it, he played a character that is torn between violence and redemption. And through that role, he announced himself not just as an actor, but as a voice of our generation. He went on to star numerous television series and portrayed the ever-wonderful Cobra. And it became a part of our everyday conversations in working-class households across the country. He was awarded and recognized both at home and abroad, but beyond the accolades, Presley was committed to the community. He took part in theater productions that spoke of Black pain, Black joy, and Black resistance. He co-wrote, which reaffirms that he was not just an actor, but a nice all-rounder. But let us not fool ourselves here. In South Africa, artists are only truly celebrated when they are dead. The Department of Arts and Culture will rush to issue statements, attend funerals, and pledge assistance. But where were they when artists like Presley were alive and building their craft? The truth is very clear that the state has allowed too many artists to die poor. They die forgotten and unsupported, while the money that is meant for nurturing talent is looted by politically connected and those who are talentless individuals. This is not just incompetence, that is what corruption is. Presley should have been wealthy enough to bury himself throughout with no problems. His talent was worth more than any other tender project. Instead, like many other artists who get abandoned by institutions that are meant to protect and elevate him. Today, as we remember Presley, we must speak honestly about the environment in which many artists like him have had to survive. The arts and creative industry in South Africa is in crisis. Our actors, musicians, writers, and performers are extremely exploited, underpaid, and denied the security and the recognition that they deserve. There is no sustainable institutional support that is meant for struggling artists to access meaningful opportunities. Instead of creating a vibrant, well-funded arts sector rooted in African identity and public participation, the state has chosen to neglect and sideline the creative industry. Under this so-called government of national unity, there has been no shift to that effect. The GNU continues the same program of abandoning our artists, of the poor and of the working class. The EFF, I'm here to say to you, rejects the idea that unity without justice is progress. Foreign awards such as the Oscars are used as a measure of success. Tina like higher, we ignore the value of our own talent unless it is validated by things such as the Oscars. The South African Film and Television Awards remain narrow in representation and too often reproduce elite narratives that do not reflect the working class reality. This must change. We need to radically transform the ownership and support the structures in this country of artists. The state must fund community theaters. It must fund township film schools. It must fund public television content that tells the story of ordinary black people. Municipalities must be compelled to provide public infrastructure for the arts, and there must be a ring-fenced funding to support young creatives in our schools, in our colleges, and in our universities. We must not wait for the Oscars to tell us that our stories matter. We must build our own platforms. We must fund our own festivals. We must honor our legends while they are still alive, not just through legacy projects that come only after they have lived with us. We must ask ourselves, how many more Presleys will never be known to us because there is no space or budget for their talent to be nurtured? How many stories have died because the storyteller could not afford transport for an audition or food while they are on set? These are the questions for the art that are not for the arts alone. They are questions of justice and democracy. Presley never abandoned his people. Despite his fame, he remained rooted. He continued to take part in township performances. He gave talks to young actors. It is in this spirit we must now carry forward. He was always wearing a beret. He was sending us a signal. By the way, the cardinal pillars of the EFF state the word massive twice. So, where does he get this word massive from? It's the EFF who conceptualized this item. The stories that Presley told, whether of a lost child in Tsotsi or a struggling father in the river, were not fiction. They were reflections of the daily lives of our millions. These were stories that were told in our schools and performed in our community halls. These are the stories that must be archived, they must be protected, and they must be used to educate and mobilize future generations. To do this, we must appoint activists who are artists at municipal and provincial level, those who will lead youth development in the arts, not as entertainment, but as political education. The Department of Basic Education and institutions of higher learning must integrate creative arts in the core curriculum with partnerships involved, which should involve seasoned artists who understand the struggle and the aspirations of our people. Art must not be stripped of politics. It must not be reduced to competition shows and celebrity gossip. It must be about life, it must be about memory, it must be about the truth. It must be about naming the pain of poverty, the violence of racism, the theft of our land, and the hope of the revolution. That is the kind of art that Presley gave to us. We also speak here of loyalty to the cause, because Presley never left his community, nor pretended to be something else when fame arrived. He did not betray his roots for money. He did not forget where he came from. That kind of loyalty is rare, and it must be taught in every child who dreams of the stage or the screen. And yes, while some political leaders are using the arts to launder their names and build reputations like Gauteng, Miss Mabe, take your place. We now want to pose, because these are people who want to pose as men of the people, we say this clearly: do not use the suffering of artists for your personal political rebranding. We know opportunism when we see it. as the EFF in Gauteng, we recommit ourselves to fighting for the rights of artists, to building cultural infrastructure, and to ensure that no artist dies in poverty while their work is celebrated on TV. During COVID, when other parties disappeared, it's the EFF who stood with artists. We donated, we assisted, we raised the alarm. We did not ask who voted for us before we offered that particular help, because loyalty is not just popularity, but to the people. That is the difference. And we just want to say to the Presley family, to his friends and to his comrades, your son will never be forgotten. His life was definitely not in vain. He left behind a body of work that will outlive all of us. He was not a perfect man. None of us are here. But he was sincere, he was principled, and he was extremely passionate. He walked with his people, laughed with them, cried with them, and told their stories with dignity. And to Presley himself as he lays here, Kobrizi, go well, son of the soil. Re re ko wena, robalo ka kagiso. Sizobonana kwelizayo. Your name will be spoken for the next generations to come. Your face will live in our memories. Your work will continue to teach, to challenge, and to heal. Long live the undying spirit of Presley. Long live. Thank you.